On this episode of Star Trek Universe, Matt and I are fleeing a torrential downpour of glass rain as we review Lower Decks 409, The Inner Fight, right after these messages from formerly disgraced cadets.
Stupid knife rain. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you can listen in on two lifelong friends just sit and chat about Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Roberson.
Dave, what's happening, bud?
I'm way more excited about Star Trek Lower Decks than I was when I started the episode.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because of the callback to Tom Paris's doppelganger there?
And they got him they got Robert Duncan McNeil to come back and play him.
Yeah. Super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun. Nick Locarno. I loved it. I loved it. It was like a list of people we all know, and then like Nick Locarno, like, wait, Nick? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to be Tom Paris in Voyager, but the studio didn't want to pay the writer who created him. So,
well, it's also very funny. Me and you have had a bunch of talks about where Tom Paris would be and like cool ways to bring him in, and it's like it feels almost like they're doing the version of Tom Paris that we've kind of been talking about wanting. You know what I mean? Like the Tom Paris that like is sort of a rogue, like out there criminal guy because he's back from Starfleet and going back to his old ways. Like we've talked a bunch about that, and yeah, it's just kind of funny to be able to grab Nick Locarno and do that instead.
Yeah,
it's great.
I mean, you know, I would love to have an episode where Nick Locarno and Tom Paris are working together on some, you know, random thing.
Oh, sure.
They've gone into business together or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then no one can tell them apart. And they're like, people keep saying we look alike. We look nothing alike.
Yeah. Good episode. Good episode. And I don't know what he's doing, Nick Locarno. Like, I at first when I saw these characters fighting on that planet, I thought that was the thing he's doing. Because the Romulan officer is also voiced by Paul F. Tompkins, which is the Romulan officer from like the second episode or whatever. So I was like, oh, okay, there we go. Here's where those characters have ended up, and I guess it is, but like. Just the captains, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know.
So you think maybe Nick has, like, a vendetta against the captains? Which makes sense, problems with authority and such. But, like, him throwing all the captains, because they talk about how someone spread rumors in our lower decks and caused our lower officers to rebel, and then this happened.
Yeah, I don't know that it was just the captains, because it seemed like there were a lot of binars.
There was just two, right? Because they're binars. Were there a lot of binars?
I thought I saw 3 or 4, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't watch it twice. I just, you know.
Yeah, me neither. I think it was just the two. I could have missed something though, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, it's definitely involving something with, like, you know, the lower deckers in some way, but some revenge through lower deckers.
Yeah, what does he say to Mariner at the end? Let's cause some trouble or something like that?
Yeah, you and me are going to cause some trouble, something like that. And by the way, I love that at the root of Mariner's problems with not wanting to get promoted lies freaking Cito Jaxa.
Mm-hmm. That's super, super fun.
Who was on that episode, the Nick Locarno episode. She was one of the cadets that helped him cover it up with Wesley Crusher and Nick Locarno. Like the illegal flight maneuver that got that person killed. And then she was on the first episode of TNG called Lower Decks. Like,
oh, okay.
She was.
I did not remember that.
And in that episode, we find out, you know, Picard requested specifically for her to be on the Enterprise because he wanted her to have a fair shot at redemption. And she volunteered for a undercover mission and she wound up getting killed. So
gotcha.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. I remembered the name, but I didn't remember where we'd seen her in the past. So it's really cool that the connection to the Nicholas Carno episode and like the fact that I assumed that it was a character we had seen that she died, but I did not remember where. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. And also, I feel like they were like, that's not enough for Mariner to be acting like this. Let's also just throw in that she's kind of got PTSD from the Dominion War.
Yeah.
Like, that'll do it.
Both of those events are just like her learning to question what it means to be a commander, and like basically she realized the cost of command, which is something that like a lot of characters deal with in Star Trek, you know, the idea that they have to send their fellow crewmen, the people that live with them and work with them day to day, they have to send them to their deaths sometimes. And like that's a moral, like it's a moral trade that as like military officers, in quotation marks, that are not military officers, they have to like learn to make. And we've seen that story, 20 times on Star Trek, probably, maybe not, maybe like 5 or 6, but it's a common theme, learning that element of command. But the idea, I mean, it's kind of the Kobayashi Maru, you know, like that's the idea. You're going to have to lose sometimes, and sometimes at the cost of your own people. And it's like the idea that that's the struggle that Mariner's been having this whole time, and we just didn't know it, that she had that same moment, but decided it wasn't worth the trade. You know, like, I know command is not worth it. I'm going to stay an ensign forever. That is really, really great reason to give behind her like whole thing. Like I was wondering if they could pull it off and make her entire like ethos of wanting to stay a lower decker this long work, and it totally works.
Yeah, I think it did. I can't help but wonder, because they, on that episode Lower Decks of the Next Generation, they just like I believe the ship just finds the debris from her shuttlecraft, or not shuttlecraft, escape pod, when she's on the way back to Federation space. I don't remember them ever seeing a body. I'm wondering if Cedo Jaxa is going to be alive.
Right, if Nick was at this a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That would be wild.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be really, really cool.
Either that or undercut that original episode.
Well, sure. And undercut Mariner's problem and everything, you know. Yeah. Not really, because she still experienced the way she experienced it, but it would change her point of view for sure if she finds out Cedo's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely am going to have to go back and rewatch those 2 episodes for sure this week.
Yeah, I'd like to as well.
Yeah, been a long time. I've definitely seen them both. And for some reason, I've caught that Flight Maneuver Academy episode like 15 times. Like I've seen all of Star Trek, all the live action Star Trek, but like there's just some episodes that just seem like they're always on when I'm like scanning through TV or whatever, you know?
Yeah, man. Genesis, I don't know why. Is always on.
Genesis?
Yeah, the one where they're like devolving.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what our buddy Spencer, I think we may have talked about this on the show before, but Spencer, he says like for like every time he tuned in to watch an episode of Star Trek Next Generation, it was Genesis.
Yeah.
And I've actually, that's not one that I have that experience of. That this one, the Academy episode with the flight maneuver, like that's an episode that I always catch on the TV for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Random chance, I guess.
And by the way, for like at least 2 of those times that Spencer is talking about, I was there, and we didn't like tune in to watch Star Trek specifically. We were just flipping through channels, and that one was on.
That's funny.
And even he was like, I've seen this like 3 times. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, it's always this episode.
It's like why Spencer doesn't like Star Trek or like isn't a fan. He like has seen that terrible episode like 3 or 4 times and like what is this show?
And to go even further, like 2 years ago, I was in a random thrift store and they had one Star Trek VHS and it was that episode.
Well, see, now that makes sense to me. The fact that someone would purchase all the Star Trek tapes and leave that one.
But here's the part that doesn't make sense. Before I saw the tape, I was on the phone with Spencer.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, holy shit, man. They have Genesis. And he was like, that awful TNG episode? I was like, yes. They have it on VHS.
That's really funny. Also, how dare you name a Star Trek episode Genesis and it have nothing to do with the Genesis device?
I know, right?
That's really the original sin of that episode.
Yeah, you see the title and you're like, ooh! And then the episode is just not at all that. And you're like, you're bastards. That was the initial disappointment, the original disappointment.
Oh, man. Great episode. I enjoyed the Billups reveal. I did not expect it at all, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, the captain got one over on me.
Yeah, like, I was sitting there going, like, God, why is she so dumb? Like, Riker would have just gone down there in civvies, you know? And
yeah.
Actually, probably Riker would have just gone down there in his Starfleet uniform and, like, beat the shit out of some people.
Yeah, prove himself or whatever with like some sort of scorpion on his hand or some shit. But no, yeah, it's a great it's a great reveal because like I did just completely not expect it, and I did like the whole time thinking like, oh, she's so bad at this. She's so bad at this. There's that great moment when she's like, we're just a roving gang, and he's like, I know you're Starfleet. You're in full uniform.
Yeah, I loved the not Baylock puppet. That was the information broker.
Yeah.
He looked like the puppet from...
It's a puppet.
The
I'm not a puppet. Maneuver. Yes, I remember. I recognized the fact that it was from something from an old Star Trek episode, and that it was an android or something in the previous version. I remembered that, and I was like,
it was just a puppet. Yeah,
it's a puppet. Okay, yeah, it was great. That was great. Rutherford's like, it's not a puppet. It has all kinds of internal organs. She's bashing it on the table.
That was great. Did you catch the name of the bar?
Yeah, Muds.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Very interesting. I was wondering if we'd see Mud in there. Similar to how I always think we're going to see Quark every time they have a Quarks.
Yeah, or you at least hope.
Yeah. But as of yet, not. Except for on DS9, of course.
Mm-hmm. I think the line that I laughed at the most was probably Boimler saying, I have sticks in my boots.
Oh gosh, I loved him like on the ground dreaming, and he's like, tap dance with me, Beverly.
I liked that scientist at the beginning that was like, now that the security shield is back up, I'm back to respecting these noble creatures.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the first things I wrote down was, now that the fence is up, I'm back to respecting these noble creatures. I thought you loved them only when the fence is up.
They're monsters.
Again, that's Paul F. Tompkins, I believe. They're like I keep hearing him, and they keep doing him in the cold opens or whatever. Like almost like every episode this season, he's been a character in the cold open.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I liked the. She jumped out of a shuttle to fight a Borg last week. It was just a pile of junk, but still.
Yeah.
The one I laughed most at, though, was honor your friend. slay your enemies and study your, what is it, plants? Yeah, sometimes it's plants.
Yeah. That was good. I liked their friendship.
Me too. I love their friendship. I always love when a Starfleet officer can, like connect with a Klingon kind of on their level. And and I love this. Like, nope, you said I already proved my, I don't even know the word.
My jadoosh.
You said I already proved my jadoosh. He's like, I said your peoples proved their jadoosh. Really great.
That was fantastic.
And then of course a little bit of Tendi getting to pull out her
Mistress of the Winter Constellation.
Mistress of the Winter Constellation. Yeah, that's it. I want to say Queen of the Winter Constellation. I was like, that's not right. Another good one for Lower Decks, and got me pumped for the finale.
Mm-hmm. I thought this was just a very solid episode all around.
I'm sorry. I just found my note on what he says when he's dreaming, and it's "Teach me how to tap dance, Beverly."
Yes.
Which is so much funnier than tap dancing, Beverly.
Yeah.
The idea that he's a student at her feet, like, so funny. Her tap dancing feet.
Yep. Man. Oh, God. Rutherford's like, lucky for us, we don't have pockets. Oh my God, we have pockets.
Captain, did you know we have pockets? So good.
Oh, that was weird.
New Axton, twice as lawless as old Axton, and none of the charm. So many good ones this episode. Really, really fun. Did we get any feedback today?
Oh, yeah, we did. Well, for last week's caves, Carrie Glygorovic 9758 over on YouTube says, to be honest, I was expecting Jennifer to join in the mission with Mariner in this episode so she could work things out with her by amending this misunderstanding back in season 3 and be just friends. However, someone did say that it will happen in season 5 next year, which is going to be a very long wait. Thanks for writing in, Carrie. And I had forgotten about the misunderstanding between Jennifer and Mariner. Because there's just been a lot going on, I guess, on the show. But yeah, they do need to figure that out or patch it up. Or, I thought maybe that it was just like Jennifer was so willing to, I don't know, like they had kind of portrayed the Jennifer character as in like not very accepting of Mariner. And I was just kind of like glad to see that done. Like, because like I'm on Team Mariner, so I'm like, you too good for that shit.
Right. Yeah. If I remember, she was just treating Mariner like she needed to conform to her friends and
friends.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still. I'd like to. I think it's interesting with this change in Mariner's character and this like step forward. This is a classic like trope / storytelling device to put Mariner in a cave and let her fight it out. I mean, it's like literally like facing the warrior in the cave kind of. It's just so classic, whatever, Joseph Campbell stuff or something. Star Wars, whatever. I feel like now that this episode has happened, I feel like we're going to get a lot of changes in her relationships, and maybe we'll get her to kind of like make amends to people that she's been sort of treating weird, and so maybe that's one that we'll get next season or this season or whatever. Probably not this season. We got one more episode.
Yeah. It's like, I hope they don't shoehorn a Jennifer thing in this last episode. But.
Yeah, that would not. Yeah, I know it's going to be a long wait, but also, yeah, I feel like this last episode needs to be focused on this overarching story we've been waiting on all season.
Yeah, and now that we know it's Nick Locarno, I'm just like, I don't even care if the other Lower Deckers are on there. I just want Nick Locarno. Like, that's all I know.
It's great too. The fact that we talked a lot of this whole show's namesake is that episode, and it's wonderful that the season 4 finale and like overarching plot is tying into that original Lower Decks episode.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Another episode before that had to deal with cadets and like people of really low stature.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing. Stu Little, of course, sends us a message, sends us an email for this episode, The Inner Fight. He says, "Hello. They better take the opportunity to reveal that Nick Locarno is at least a cousin of Tom Paris or something." No, Stu, no, you don't understand. They've got to be completely different people who aren't related at all, and everyone thinks they look the same, but they're like, this is just not true. Stop saying it. So transporters still work even if the source of the transmission gets destroyed mid-beam? I think they're... yeah, that's how it works. That's how it's always worked on Star Trek, Stu.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of cases where someone beams out just in time as the ship explodes. So,
yep.
I guess you send the beam with instructions to materialize at a certain location, and once the beam is out, it's out.
Yeah, once the beam is there and intercepted, like if it's not intercepted by the transporter that's materializing them, well, that's it.
Well,
that's the end of that.
But I guess a lot of times though it's being transported down to a planet or something. Mm-hmm. So I got to assume that the beams just like have instructions to materialize at a certain place, and I've always assumed that's just happening simultaneously. Like as the beam is, happening, it's like literally into rebuilding them in the other spot or whatever.
Well, unless there's something very specific in that, the science consultants have built into the show, I would say it's always been fairly inconsistent because they can beam down to a planet without a transporter pad being there to intercept them and lock onto their signal. But if they're beaming up from Starfleet Command from a transporter, they've got to have the transporter on the ship like lock in on their bullshit and like bring. Why? Like if the transporter fails, why can't they just appear in that room?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with shielding on the ships or whatever. Like you don't want random intruders and stuff being able to like come in even if your shields are down or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe it's something like that. But maybe you have to have to go into secure facilities. You have to be able to get in through the transporter or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my headcanon, but that's I think it's more in line with bullshit.
Sure.
I think it's an oversight, chum. Stu continues. I think they're pushing the efficacy of Vulcan nerve pinch when it works on a Cardassian with those shoulders. I think you're stretching, Stu.
I don't know.
You can just like a thing, man.
It's a great. Okay. It's a funny joke. I like it.
No, he's got bigger shoulders. There's more to pass out from.
Yeah, that nerve is way bigger. I don't think it's stretching the efficacy. It's just like that's a real exposure for the Cardassians. So it's like great. They're like Achilles' shoulders.
I like it. Achilles' shoulders. Cobra-looking bastards.
I had a dream about a cobra this week. I woke up flipping out. Like I had you wake up in the middle of a nightmare and you're still like in that panic mode and think it's real for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely had that moment.
Dude, that's weird. I had a dream I picked up an umbrella and it was like a snake was wrapped around the handle and like fell around my ankle and started constricting.
Dang.
I had that dream like 2 days ago.
Wow, this was about 2 days ago. We might have been dreaming at the same time, Dave.
That's weird,
Same time. Well, mine is sort of based on the fact that I walked into my den about, 4 weeks ago, and there was a snake on the floor in my den.
Okay.
We had left the storm door cracked because the storm door's broken, and so I had left it pushed open, and so there's a gap under the door, and I think the snake just slithered in. There's a lot of trees around here, so whatever. I'm sure there's snakes out there. But I walked in and there's just a snake on my floor. Scared me a lot, and I think I've still been like processing the fright of the snake on the floor. It was a small, like, non-poisonous snake. It was fine. I scooped it up in a little thing and went and released it in the woods.
Was it a king snake?
No, it was a gray rat snake.
Okay. We have a lot of king snakes around here. I think they'll show up in our basement. But they, we started noticing the snakes, and then shortly after, I noticed all the chipmunks were disappearing, and I was like, oh.
The Great Wars.
Stu says, Glass Storm is cool. Cedo Jackson being Mariner's motivation for her behavior doesn't just connect this episode to Lower Decks, but also the First Duty, the episode Nick Locarno was in too. They kinda omit Cedo's involvement with the accident, though. She got assigned to the Enterprise because Picard wanted to make sure she got a proper second chance. Yeah, I'm assuming we're going to get more of that in the next episode, when Cedo Jackson is revealed to be alive and working with Nick Locarno. That's just my guess.
Yeah. It would be really interesting because, again, like you said, it could undercut some of the plot lines we've had in the past, including this episode. But I think it could be really powerful if, now that she's gotten the chance to like resolve this in herself with this warrior in the cave, and then then she finds out she's alive. She could get really pissed at Cedos for never letting her know, like her friend died, put her through all this pain for 15 years or whatever. And now like she's like really angry that Cedos never like let her know.
Or they keep Cedo dead and make her death the catalyst for Nick Locarno actually going all crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, because they like fed her to the wolves,
Yeah, totally. And if that's the case, then it could test Mariner's new decision she made in that cave. It could really test, like, show her who she's been by showing Nick Locarno having a similar reaction to Cedos' death.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Stu says, Locarno being behind all this ship stuff is a good twist that I didn't see coming. And having McNeil voice him would indicate they're going to do something with the Tom Paris thing next episode. I hope.
I'm so sorry, Stu. I think you're wrong.
I mean, I hope, but I don't think they will.
Like, yeah, I don't think they will. Knowing Lower Decks, they'll ignore it and not connect it. Well, I don't know. Lower Decks does both. Sometimes they make, like, connections in canon, and sometimes it's, like, whatever. Sometimes they just, like, draw references to old stuff and make it... Yeah, it is silly that that's a thing, So I don't know what they'll do. But I kind of don't want them to just explain that they're... I like the idea of it being referenced, for sure.
Yeah.
It's actually hilarious it didn't get referenced in this episode.
Yeah,
like I'm kind of shocked, and so maybe that means they're saving it. Okay, I'm settling on. I think they're gonna do something with it because it's such an obvious joke. They didn't do anything with it in the first episode. I know he was only on screen for a second, but they talked about him earlier on. They even I feel like if they'd said, "Doesn't that guy look like Tom Paris to you?" Like it would have even helped us help some people that wouldn't have remembered that episode. Oh yeah, that episode. You know what I mean? Like, so the fact that they did nothing with it this episode makes me think they're saving it for a joke or a gag or an explanation next episode.
Yeah.
I'm personally just hoping for a joke or a gag. I don't really want an explanation.
I kind of just want like both. Like, like the other day, I went to a gas station and there was a guy in there who looked just like Ewan McGregor, except he was in head to toe camo. I was just like, I stopped and looked at him and he noticed and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" I was like, "Dude, you look like freaking Ewan McGregor. You look like Obi-Wan, dude." He was like, "Huh, I've never heard that before." And the guy behind the counter was like, "He really does. Oh my God."
Wow. That's fun.
And he was like, "Well, thanks, I guess." I'm like, "Really, dude? You got to do some like 23andMe shit. Like, find out if like if you're like related.
That's really funny.
That's, people have doppelgangers, so I don't know. I feel like it would be fun if they brought up the resemblance.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the people you're always, when you say like, oh man, you look like so and so, those people never agree. They're like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Stu says, good one, building anticipation for the finale. We got some payoff for the arc plot this year, but also the multiple season question of why Mariner is why she is the way she is. The only remaining quartet mystery is why Boimler dyes his hair purple. The other abducted officers were used well, especially the Klingon, and the not so B plot was a fun diversion. Let's finish strong and get that 5th season. I think we'll get the 5th season. By the way, I didn't talk about this. This was in the news. There was some kind of convention, and Alex Kurtzman was on stage, and Mike McMahon did not get to be a part of the Lower Decks Strange New Worlds crossover because of a COVID scare. So, the cast was, sending him pictures of them hanging out with Jonathan Frakes all day, and he was like, oh, you bastards. So, on stage, he asked Alex Kurtzman, can we do another crossover with Strange New Worlds so I can actually be a part of it? And Kurtzman said, absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
So, they've, it sounds like they've pretty much officially announced another crossover episode.
I don't know if I'd say that's officially announcing, but that is, clearly they wouldn't mind doing it. That's super fun. One thing we didn't talk about this episode that was, I think, incredibly cool and important, and one of my favorite things that makes me all choked up on Star Trek is just, the classic, Starfleet Mariner deciding to be more Starfleet and less violent and stepping forward and him saying, we can take them out, they already fear me, so we could do this or that, and working together. And she's like, nope, we're not going to fight. We're going to do something much harder. And she stands up to talk to them. I just love that stuff. It's just good. Yeah. It just makes me smile, makes my heart warm to see the just classic Starfleet thing of we're going to make a difference through diplomacy and do the hard work. And it's also it's the hard work for the characters, but it's also the hard work for the writing too. It's way easier just to have a kick fight and then we're done. It's way cooler to do this, and so I liked it a lot. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the sentiment. I'm also largely bored by fight sequences a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I get tired of seeing it over and over again. So
yeah. Well, I think the problem is when fight sequences aren't earned with character. And so I think when a fight sequence is based in character and they're making decisions and having to struggle with something internally that is reflected through the fight sequences are amazing. It's fight sequences can be a representation of what's going on in the inner life. Mm-hmm. Or they can be something to just ignore the inner life completely and just have fun kicks and lasers. And I just could that's a dime a dozen. It doesn't matter to me. You're just not doing the hard work, and so I thought that was cool. But anyway, that's all the feedback.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, man, it's been fun talking about Lower Decks with you this morning. And we'll be back next week with the finale of Lower Decks. Hope you all join us. Peace. Joel on True.
Live long and prosper. And also, me and Effie will be back with another episode of our original series reviews.
So. Yeah. Check those out.
We got 2 more in the can.
Sweet. Excited. All right. Well, we'll be back. We'll be back soon, guys. Peace. Joel on True. Live long and prosper. Bye. I panicked.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.